One of the most moving and inspiring interviews that we've done on this show must surely have been with Gerco van Deventer. She's the wife of Gerco van Deventer, who was kidnapped in Libya 6 years ago and held for ransom. She then said she had this unwavering faith that he would return home. And then in December last year, word came out that after being kidnapped in Libya, sold to militants in Mali, and then released into Algeria in December, Gerco van Deventer was finally freed after 6 years. He joins us on the line from Swellendam. Gerco, thanks so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate your time. Firstly, you've been home now for the last few weeks. What does that feel like? Good morning.
Good morning. It's a bit of overwhelming in the beginning, getting to terms with, being a free man, having my freedom given back to me. Yeah, it was overwhelming, but it's getting there. It's settling in nicely, and great support from everybody in South Africa and from Swellendam, the people here in town.
Gerco, you worked as a paramedic in Libya. Tell us about what happened on the day of your kidnapping.
Yeah, we were just driving. They picked me up at the airport, and we were just driving to the construction site. And the next moment, let's call it all hell broke loose, and heard the bullets on the car. Next moment, the car stationary, and within seconds, there's people at the door trying to break in, trying to pull me out of the car. Obviously, you refuse, but when they hit me and two guys pointed their AKs at my head, I knew, okay, this is now. You can resist as much as you want, but they're going to take you by force.
Do you know where was the first location that they took you to after taking you from the vehicle?
After they took me back into Ubari, and I spent the first month in the town, in a house. They locked me up in a room, constant light on me, with two of them sleeping next to me, making sure that I don't do anything funny. It was horrific.
Mm-hmm. And how were you treated? I of course there were times that you may have feared for your life, but how were you treated? Because we've been speaking occasionally to Gift of the Givers, who were part of the negotiation, who said that the likelihood of captives actually being killed or seriously harmed is very slim, because they say that captives are usually treated like commodities. There's nothing they can do with you if you are dead. But there was any point where you feared for your life?
No, absolutely. The night that I was shot, a lot of the people that kept me were young guys, and they started to freak out when there was drones patrolling the skies above me. There was two UAVs, and it just, when they started shooting, obviously you stay calm and you don't move and you take cover where you can. But I was chained to a tree, so I was literally with a chain around my legs onto a tree. I can't move anything, and they fired 6 or 7 bullets to my head, and the next one was through my arm.
Oh.
So
you were then after...
and they left me just there. They left, and I had to treat myself.
Gosh. You were then sold to militants in Mali. And going back to being treated like a commodity, this is quite common for groups to hold onto captives so that they can get ransom. Did you at all feel like the only thing that is keeping you alive is because you may be worth something in ransom to your captors?
Absolutely, because I know that they do this for a living. They do this to gain money. I was initially kidnapped by a mafia or a armed criminal group, and obviously you're worth money to them. They want money for you, so they will treat you as a commodity. They will give you whatever is needed, but to a limited extent. And when I was sold to Al Qaeda, they still saw me as a commodity, and obviously they will take care of you to whatever they can. You are always worth money to them. and they always want something for you. They won't do it for any other reason, just to, for they want money for you. You are worth investment.
What is the relationship, if any, between you and a captor? You're kept for 6 years. You're fed. You're not starved. I don't know how much they fed you, but you're kept alive. Over 6 years, are you treated as prisoner, as guest, as someone who we are holding who is valuable to us? What is the relationship between a captor and a captive?
You see that there's a fine line of being a friend and still being a captive. You must decide if you want to make your life difficult for yourself or not. And I decided I want to make my captivity as comfortable as possible. So you do what needs to be done to make that happen for you. And there is, obviously you are separated from them. They don't talk to you. They don't want to talk to you. You are roughly 50 to 100 meters away from them. But they will check on you. They will constantly look where you are, what you're doing, and making sure that you're still there. And there's a sort of relationship, but there's also not. They see you as a non-believer, so they see you that you might infect them to a certain extent, or they don't want to mingle with you, and they're not willing to do the effort to understand you when you do try to talk to them.
There's a question here that asks whether at all you were indoctrinated, if there were attempts to convert you. I don't know how that would work, because if they see you more as human like them, then they lose you as a commodity. Then you're an equal. Were there any sort of discussions of religion,
of course,
ideology?
They would try to convert me. There was numerous attempts, but I'm strong in my faith. My faith, actually, they showed me that I need to be strong in my faith and to live my faith. And that is one thing that actually came out of this whole kidnapping experience, was just, how to strengthen your faith, because they showed me that they live their faith. And as a believer I'm a Christian and a believer in God, that why can't I also be like that? And that was my mindset, from the beginning until the end. My faith was strong.
We're speaking to Gerco van Deventer, a South African who after 6 years has finally been released after being kept captive in Libya and Mali, being released into Algeria before finding his way home in December. Gerco, there was you weren't alone, there was a fellow captive, a fellow Frenchman, Olivia Dubois, who was released months before you. Since his release, I have been monitoring his social media, and he has often called and reiterated that a friend of his, Gerco van Deventer, is still being held captive. What were your thoughts when Olivia was released? And what were your thoughts of him even after his release, still calling for efforts to be made that you are released safely?
You spend time together. We were a year and a half together, and we came to the agreement that once whoever's released first, obviously you don't want your friend to stay there. And the initial thoughts when he was released was a sense, disappointment, of course. But then you also realize that there's other partners in play that facilitated his release. But I also knew that there's one less prisoner, so I might be next. And you look forward. You don't make it a priority, but you stay positive and you don't let it affect you, because if you let it affect you, you're going to be down in the dumps and you're going to be depressed, which is detrimental to you in that situation.
What do you know about the negotiations behind your release? When did you find out that you would be released? Explain that day, where you went next, and plenty of things happening without your knowledge here between South Africa, organizations here, the South African government, and
Yeah,
groups in Mali. What happened?
as much as I know is that I was informed on the 12th of December. A guy came to me, speaking to me in Tuareg, trying to explain to me that I need to take a shower and wash my clothes and prepare to be released. And I'm like, okay, it would be nice, of course, but you don't put expectations on it. Because you don't want to disappoint if it doesn't come through. And a second guy came the same night, and he also said the same, and he informed me that I'm being released for free.
Wow.
And on humanitarian grounds. And I said, okay, no problem. And he said to me that it will be in 2 days' time. And nothing happened for the first day. The second day was almost done. And the next moment, there was a car to pick me up. And we started driving, and I'm like, okay, if something happens, it happens. And when I finally got to the Algerian border and I was handed over to the Algerian government, which facilitated the release, and I was handed over to security services, it was initially didn't sink in. Only the next day after, it really hit me hard, and I broke down. I really broke down.
Wow.
The sense of relief, the sense of finality actually came through.
Gerco, you spoke about disappointment. Were there instances before your release in December where you thought, oh, I'm going to be released soon, and then that didn't come to be? I understand that you were bracing yourself also for the possibility that you may not actually have been released.
Yeah, they never told me, when they finally did come and talk to me, there wasn't any indication before that I will be released. They never spoke to me. They never informed me, listen, you in one month's time or 2 weeks' time. There was no information like that. It was only the 2 days before I was released that they told me. And then, you don't set yourself up for disappointment. So you listen and you take in, but you process it in a sense of, okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it's not your time.
Yeah. We spoke to Shireen, your wife, last year, and she had this unwavering faith that you would return. How do you get 6 years of your life back? A lot has happened in the world. There's even a message, and I don't know whether this is tongue-in-cheek, but a listener is asking, did you know about COVID while you were being held captive?
I didn't. I didn't know about COVID. I didn't know the pandemic. And, my life was in limbo. And
wow.
My family had to make decisions, and they had to carry on. So now I had to fit in.
Was there regular updates to your family? Because of course, there's the unwavering faith that you would return home. Must have been long periods of time not knowing whether you were alive or not. And maybe this is a question for your family, but at what point do they almost come to terms with, he's not coming home, he may actually be dead?
Family, after speaking to my family, they never lost faith. They all had faith that I will come back. Even myself, if it is God's will, it will happen. When, I don't know. If it was this month, if it's next month, if it's over in a year's time, I don't know. But I had faith in my Heavenly Father that He will, if it's meant to be, it will happen. If it's His will, He will release me. He will take me out of the situation that I was in, and He will bless me with my freedom.
So you were released into Algeria at the handover, across the border. Do you run? Do you turn around? Do you shake the hand of the person who held you captive for almost 6 years? Do you say goodbye? What do you do?
Yeah, when I was at the Algerian border, the driver that was driving the vehicle, he just shook my hand, didn't say a word or anything. And they put me in another car and we started driving. And then the guy sitting next to me said to me, you are free.
Wow.
And I was in almost disbelief on everything that happened. There was so many emotions coming through and going through my head, and I cannot describe it. It was overwhelming at that point. And they kept on saying, just, it's finished, it's over, you are free.
Wow. You've been home for a couple of weeks now. How have you internalized it? Of course, spending time with your wife and family. Is there a process of counseling that's offered? Because we have offers from psychologists and PTSD specialists on our WhatsApp line and calling us saying they're happy to talk to you pro bono. Have you received counseling since your return?
Yes, I have received counseling. I have a psychologist provided by the South African government, exactly for PTSD treatment, so that I don't go that far, so that I can, process everything. And it's been wonderful. I'm mentally quite tough and prepared for anything, working in Afghanistan, my military background. But still, the government has given me the tools for me to recover and to help me recover.
Gerco, so many questions that listeners are asking, from the banal to I think also very almost philosophical. One of them is, was there ever a point where even if you're running into nothingness, into the Mali desert, did you ever consider escaping?
No, of course, but it takes time to plan something like that. A lot of thoughts went through my mind. What can I do? How can I do this? Getting the lay of the land, for instance, knowing where you are. But the problem is, once you escape, they know the desert.
Yeah.
And they will pick you up very quickly. It's their backyard. And, you can be prepared as much as you want, but they are still the upper hand it's their backyard.
I have to ask, because there's 6-7 messages coming through on simply what were you fed? It's a very important question to many people.
You see, as a type 2 diabetic, it was a bit difficult at a time.
Oh, wow.
I got to know my body in a sense where I could sense my sugar is too high or too low. And I adjusted my diet accordingly. But you eat more, you eat less, you eat at certain times. And it was only starch. Rice, macaroni or pastas. We call it in Afrikaans askoek. It's a bread that you bake under the sand, under coals. You have to survive. You need to eat something, otherwise you're not going to make it.
And just finally from my part, and fortunately running out of time, Gerco, but what are the plans now? You made a career. It is your job as a medical officer, and either on rigs or at construction sites around the world. With this experience, what next for Gerco van Deventer? Of course, as much time with your family as possible, but how do you plan to sustain yourself?
My plan is to help people be prepared when they are planning to go and work in places like that. Is to help them be prepared mentally, mental preparedness, survival training for people going into that situation, or not that situation, but going into conflict areas, to prepare them mentally and physically to be ready. That is my aim. And to teach people and help people in that sense.
Well, Gerco van Deventer, welcome home, welcome back home, and thank you so much for agreeing to chat to us. Thank you so much.